Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Until 6, where we talk about all things related to Five Nights at Freddy's. Today we're talking about how FNAF connects to the real world, because there are a few connections between FNAF and the real world with things like mythology and supernatural and such sort of things, and we're going to go over a couple of things in FNAF that connect with our reality. So let's begin. Now, in FNAF 1, the animatronics become far more aggressive starting at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. is the time where their AI aggression ramps up and they become much more aggressive towards you. Now, in real-life mythology, 3 a.m. is known as the witching hour. It lasts between 3 a.m. to 4 a.m., which coincides with the times that the animatronics become much more aggressive. Now, according to mythology, 3 a.m. is when the border between the realm of the living and the dead are at its thinnest, and supernatural entities at their strongest. Demons, spells, curses, hexes, and all kinds of paranormal things are at their strongest during this period of time. And so it can be seen as no coincidence that during the hour where paranormal things are at their strongest, the animatronics become far more aggressive. Now, 3 a.m. is seen as also known as the Devil's Hour, as it's known to be an inversion of 3 p.m., the time when Jesus Christ died on the cross. Now, there is mention of the heck in FNAF when near the end of the 6th game, when Henry says that the darkest pit of that is waiting for William Afton. Now, we're not sure if he actually does go to heck. We know he at least ends up in purgatory for some time, and he probably is permanently stuck in purgatory. And then, yeah. Now, so that's one thing. Now, for another thing is the light. Now, it's a general accepted thing that one thing most children are afraid of is the dark. Most children are scared of the dark. I was scared of the dark when I was a kid. I always had the light on. Of course, I don't have to be afraid of the dark anymore because the light's always on in this room. I don't know where to turn off the light anyways. I'm not sure if I want to anyways. I'd probably be in pitch black darkness if I was, so it's better to stay in constant light. It makes it hard to sleep though. Anyways, now of course, so many children are afraid of the dark, as they believe that there are monsters in the dark. Now, of course, night lights and light in general is generally accepted to be the turret against monsters in the dark. You know, children set up night lights in front of their beds and like to keep the light on because they believe that the light will keep away the monsters in the dark. To keep away the boogeyman, the kukui, or whatever really that lives in the dark. And that's a generally accepted piece of will probably be best referred to as child lore. Now, in FNAF 4, the main deterrent against the animatronics is your flashlight. You get rid of the Freddles by flashing your light at them. You get rid of Foxy by shining your light at him and closing the closet door. And you keep Chica and Bonnie away from your door by flashing the light at them. And that serves as a deterrent to completely getting rid of Freddy and postponing any attempts to get to your door by Chica and Bonnie. And of course, this would make sense because initially we believed that the player in the Nights was the crying child, so it would have made sense back then. But still, generally accepted idea in that light keeps away monsters. Basically all children believe this. That's why they keep night lights on. That's why they're scared of the dark. They believe that monsters live in the dark and light will keep the monsters away. And even in FNAF 2, the light keeps away Foxy, murdered Foxy, as he does not work against the mask. So you have to shine the light at him, and even work on the mangle as well. And of course, even the other animatronics, it'll kind of stun them for a bit, as is stated by a phone guy, and it kind of gets them to sort of reset as he describes it. Now, Remnant in Agony. Now, this is explained in the books. You don't really hear about it much from the games, and especially not the movies. But In the books, they explain that remnant and agony are these substances, physical actual like stuff you can touch, and these are created by strong and intense emotions from some kind of event, and that these typically come from fear, anger, and being scared, and that sort of stuff. And this property can be used to bring things to life. Remnant is what was generally considered to be used to bring to life things like the animatronics, as dislocation creatures. And that's what William was experimenting for, with Remnant. That's what he did all this stuff for, to get Remnant. Because he could have used it to figure out how to live forever. And, basically, it's a substance created by strong emotions, and of course, agony is a dark type of it, the evil type of it, created from bad emotions, hate, fear, and it's a theory that the pizzeria Oswald ends up in Into the Pit was agony creation, agony Springtrap, that the Springtrap that he fights against Into the Pit, because that's clearly not only mapped in. We see inside of its jaw, and that's not a human jaw, there's no human being in there. And this doesn't resemble any Freddy's we know, and there's 6 children dead, only 5 children died after Freddy's in 1985. And of course, that's very clearly not a human in a suit. So the idea is that the agony of what happened at the MCI was so terrible that it manifested itself. That the agony manifested itself into another restaurant to go back in time to. Now, there's this thing known as tapestone theory. Now, tapestone theory is a pseudoscientific theory that strong emotions from events, emotions like fear and things like that, can imprint themselves onto objects. And the object can be, when imprinted with this, it can replay it over and over and over again. Which is why, residual hauntings happen. Why things that happened 100 years ago, you'll see the ghost of a person who lived in the place 100 years ago, or you'll see the ghost of soldiers from a battle that happened 50 years ago, because the pain and suffering embedded itself into the ground, and it replays itself like a tape that recorded it. It is replaying on rewind, like how remnant and agony are physical creations created by strong emotions. Fear, hate, it's so strong and intense that it manifests itself as something physical that can bring things to life, and possibly even created the Springtrap that Oswald fought against, and created the restaurant that Oswald went into when he went into the pit and into the pit. Now, of course, there are also other basic stuff, like with the missing children. Of course, they stick around, and they don't move on because their killer's still out there. He's wandering the free world. And we'll generally believe that one of the reasons why ghosts will stick around in places is because they have unsettled business. That's one of the main causes. That if a ghost died without settling its business in the living world, it will stay around. And the animatronics don't pass on until William is dead, because he has been spring locked. They stick around and are trapped inside of these animatronics because he's still out there. They haven't had any peace yet. Once he's dead and they've had their peace, they can finally pass on. And, they have unsettled business, preventing them from going on into the afterlife. And, of course, moving on to spirit mythology and going to real life, the whole thing, you see comparisons of stranger danger. We only see one interaction with William and one of the kids, of course, that's Susie, of course. The first one. She's seen everything, And, of course, you're telling her that, hey, your dog's still alive, follow me, This was in the 1980s, in the height of the stranger danger, mass hysteria. And it really does fit what the stereotypical stranger danger idea was. And though the idea of the stranger danger that came from the kidnapper, that came from the hysteria at the time, isn't exactly true. Most kidnappings are, especially were over typically custody. A parent takes a child when they weren't supposed to have them, or they keep them for longer when they shouldn't have them. Most things like that, most kidnappings and stuff like that, are done by people that know them. Like almost killings are done by people who know them, and things like that. And most of the time, but this fits the stereotypical stranger danger case that would have been repeated over and over and over again, and what people would have been looking out for in the 1980s. A stranger who the person doesn't know offered them something. I can take you to your dog, and that's kind of like, and the dog is one of the more well-known ideas of stranger danger examples they give. A guy has a van full of puppies, or he's lost a dog, and help him find them, something like that. But that's really all I gotta say for today's episode. I hope to see y'all around sometime soon, maybe. Maybe I can see you again sometime, but that's all I gotta say for today's episode. I'll see y'all around. So, bye.